bounce that one on you instead. Nothing incredible comes to mind? Okay. I thought maybe the meaning of life. I suppose like many sort of religious spiritual people at least have that so within their character to have a deeper do you want to? Yeah, okay. Maybe I'll do it straight after. Okay. Just see how much we've got. We've already been through these. Yeah, so we've seen vast majority of these, virtually all of them. But if any of you need to have a word, we can have a word before we split. So this whole principle of religious spiritual inquiry. As like human beings, so we find ourselves on this planet like a speck in the universe, and we sort of wonder what's going on around us, and what's going on in the world, what's going on around us, and what's the nature of what's the purpose of a human being actually being on this planet. When you look at the level of just the time span and the level of evolution it took to get human beings to where they are now. So what's this purpose, this process, and so when you look at all the different you've got all these different realms of existence. You've got the human beings, you've got the Devaloka, the Brahmaloka, and even the realms for the 5 types of anagami, and then below that the animal, the hell realms, hungry ghosts, and the Titans. So you've got this vast number of realms in relation to the karma of human beings, the kind of karma that they make, which is sort of comprises their consciousness, from the surface level going right round into the deep past. And so the vast majority of us, half the people you meet at least have a small spirit of inquiry. They would like to know, like where they might be going in life, and as far as high developing happiness, like real enduring happiness as a human being, which is possible, but it's a bit of a compromise situation when on the ultimate level. The Four Noble Truths are concerned with, say, being free from all forms of existence whatsoever. So the Buddha said, that life in any world, in any realm of rebirth whatsoever, compared to the Nibbana element, is an existence which is affected by affliction and either very coarse or very incredibly refined suffering. But that perspective, that comes from a very, very high position. So the Buddha is saying that any mode of rebirth whatsoever is unsatisfactory, and you can see what the Buddha was talking about. So here we find ourselves as human beings. We have a mix of both happiness and misfortune and joy and sorrow and all the thousands of emotions that we go through. So how can we be happy, truly happy as a human being, when our physical body and our emotional and psychological makeup is in a constant state of change and flux, where we don't have any real state like stability whatsoever? So where are you going to go? Where are you going to find happiness in the human experience when the body is constantly changing, and your mind and your moods, your reactions, and the people around you are in a constant state of change? So there's no real safe, there's no real like stable ground where you can secure yourself. Nothing's, like as one of the masters from Thailand said, he said something along the lines of, he said when you develop very, very deep samadhi, he said that's when you really start to see something new, something fresh, things that you haven't seen before. The vast majority of us, we keep seeing the same stuff over and over and over again. The similar moods and people's behaviours and the stuff that we see in the world. We've got this conditioning processes as human beings, and we see this kind of repetitive, say, behaviour and conditioning, like throughout history, the whole history of humankind. But also on the karmic level as well, you're looking at all this past karma from say, going back into the past, all this, say, good, bad, and neutral karma that we have, which exists within our minds, and then our karma basically, it activates the karma which returns to us. And so as we produce karma, good, bad, and neutral, and then in a certain time and place, that particular karma will return to us. One of many, many hundreds of thousands of sort of karmic energies that we produce on a moment-to-moment basis. So we find ourselves as human beings at this point in time in this particular set of circumstances, and so if we look at the course of our life, people are reborn in a vast variety of circumstances, but eventually people, regardless of their circumstances, will have to question exactly, why they find themselves where they're at, and why they do what they do. Usually find the meditators are a little bit more intuitive with this kind of thing, but there's not many people who don't question exactly where they find themselves in life and why. Like, why do certain things happen to me? Why do I get, for example, the predicaments that you see, and the instability, and so the violence and aggression which you see in the Middle East and even other parts of the world. I mean, why are these people born in these circumstances, in these stages of misfortune, and why do we have people, say, in other parts of the world in the West with very wealthy, affluent life experiences and many, many opportunities, and especially with the internet, because you can see exactly what's going on all over the world. So you get this kind of very like a big picture mentality, and so instead of like maybe walking around in one's own little world, we got a more sort of very much a broad perspective on the human condition, and the human condition is not a very say predictable experience. Like almost anything is possible, and hopefully the vast, the people that we know. Actually, it's a bit of a catch-22. Even if you wish all beings to be reasonably safe, secure, and to have meaningful lives, I mean, it's not going to be the case. We're going to see a very, very, say, broad mix of human experience, and when people really start to have like real suffering and pain in their lives, that usually find that's a very, very effective catalyst to get a person to start to question exactly what is happening to them, and maybe why do I find myself in this particular set of circumstances. So, as the Buddha said previously, that there was two principles. Suffering, when the suffering really starts to roll in a person's life, there are two outcomes. Either the person sinks into despair, and I can't think of like another word to describe it. So he sinks into a sorry state of despair, where they may find it very, very difficult to keep themselves afloat, or it instigates the search for meaning, the search for, exactly, why is this happening? And so, outside of, say, religion, spirituality, they don't it's very hard to sort of work out exactly where we are and where we're going. We sort of need usually we need a tradition, whether it's, even if it's philosophy, if it's not religion, spirituality, philosophy, to give us some kind of spirit of inquiry, to give us maybe ways of thinking, modes of meditation, means of inquiry, maybe like say past philosophers, religious, spiritual teachers, had something to say, some kind of input in relation with the human condition. And so if we get some kind of sort of like motivation, instigation to seek for some kind of meaning in life, and so there's a couple of, like there'll be another of avenues available where one can seek, one can dialogue, one can develop meditation, or even things like mantra. You can have things like TM, or sort of more sort of neutral based methods to quieten the mind, to increase intuition and awareness. But what we're aiming for is trying to develop this kind of like a higher mind experience, because the average person walking the street who has no real sense of religion or spirituality at all, they're not really, just for choice of better words, they're not really clued in on where they are exactly in life. People, like for example, when I was working at the steelworks, and mainly training with young guys, probably about 15, 16, 18, and all these guys really thought of was making money, partnership, travel, just all the just the normal acceptable things that human beings seek, but very, very few, say people that you meet in the general fraternity have a genuine sense of inquiry. And for example, the people we meet at the monastery, many of them have said that they, for example, as practicing Buddhists, that it's very difficult for them to find people to dialogue with, to discuss Dhamma, even practice and things they've read and they've studied. You will definitely have good quality people within the community fraternity, but for people who have a real genuine interest in understanding the nature of life, the nature of a human being, you won't come. They'll definitely be there. There'll be people in that category, but you won't meet them that regularly. You really have to go to monasteries, temples, and they will be the kind of people who have like a spirit of inquiry. So as we follow this process, so for example, you're the kind of person, the spark has been ignited, and you think to yourself, I'm really have a genuine interest in coming to an understanding of the nature of where I am in the cosmos and the nature of the universe. And then the person usually instigates some kind of maybe religious, spiritual, meditative type of format to sort of get them started. And then as they develop the particular path that they're following, that they essentially you start to learn over time, like experientially, and whatever path that you're looking at involves, say, like a movement into the personality, into one's mind, and because especially spirituality and deep, say, religious experience, it's got to be it's got to be experiential. No one is going to be able to give you the goods and just sort of put these little nuggets of gold into the palms of your hand, and then you may find yourself enlightened to, you know, the nature of the cosmos. So with every single one of us, that we have to, you know, instigate and commit with the spiritual work, spiritual practice, and then through, if we undertake the practice in a correct manner, potentially with guidance. I mean, not every single one of us will need guidance from time to time, and then one comes to know and understand. You've got to understand. If you really want to understand the reality of the universe, the nature of the universe, you've got to understand the nature of the human mind. There's no other way you're going to comprehend it. There's only one way, and that's in. You've got to go in, until you reach that ultimate emptiness of nibbana. So the enlightenment path, regardless of tradition, I mean, it's really only the Buddhists who have a genuine path to enlightenment, because the Buddha said very clearly, you've got to have the 8 factors of the path there in order to develop yourself fully. Because, you know, like with the Buddhist path, it's not a 6-fold path, 7-fold. You've got to have all 8 factors there, and then you get the full business. Then you get all the tools that you need to work with, the guidelines for realization. So, you know, so one gets on the path and starts to walk, and then the fun begins. And then so people start to, you know, they really start to experience themselves, their personality, the strengths, the weaknesses, the love, the hate, and all the myriad of human, say, emotions and mind states which you are capable of. And my father made a comment quite a while back. He did a little bit of meditation, and he was already maybe about 75, and he thought that he knew his personality reasonably well. You know, he thought he understood himself reasonably well, but as soon as he started to meditate, he saw aspects of himself that he'd never ever seen, you know, even with 75 years of living, and which basically sort of like frightened him in a way. But the thing is that people, if you're really interested in this practice, that you know, you've got to be focused, you've got to be committed, and you've got to have a minimum degree of, say, resolve and strength of mind, say faith and confidence. But psychologically, you know, you need to be strong to like a minimum degree to deal with the stuff that you're going to move through. And I know a young couple. They're both very nice young people, but both are spiritual people and the meditators, and but both of them had, I mean, you know, the relationship experience was quite difficult, and ups and downs, and friction, and all the rest of the stuff that people go through. But when in relation with this, so this particular connection was a little bit difficult, but another couple I know, that the boyfriend, we were in conversation, and the boyfriend said that this particular girl that he was with, even though she was not non-confrontational, very intelligent girl, but with a very mild personality, and very easygoing, very easy to chit chat with. But he said he never learned more about himself through, like, this person that he was connected with. He learned more about himself with this person than anyone else that he'd ever met in his life. But there can be a karmic thing as well. You know, if you're really tight with somebody karmically, you could have had a couple of lifetimes together, and then you reconnect in the current life. When you get with that person, they basically just open you up, and they just open the box, and they can bring up some very, very meaningful experiences for one, because you've got lifetimes of karma with that person. It's not like a we're sort of, we've been together for a couple of years or this or that. You've got lifetimes of karma which starts to move up into the conscious level of the mind. So, there's some real potential to learn and understand, as long as it's not too painful. So, so every single one of us, with the mind experience, we're going to, you're going to see everything. You're going to see all your moods and your preferences and everything else. But one needs to, is to basically like examine and really understand, why you feel the way you do, why you walk and talk and think the way you do. Because if we don't have this kind of reflective mentality, when these experiences come up, then the potential for, say, knowledge and understanding may escape us temporarily at that point in time. People's stuff is always coming up, rising up into consciousness, but one has to be sharp in the sense that, just reflect on any, like, say, absolutely anything new, anything interesting, even the old stuff that you see within one's character, the kind of repetitive stuff. Because if that kind of behaviour keeps activating and keeps spinning over in the mind, it means that it's not basically resolved, it's not settled. Because if you have stuff in the past which basically doesn't stop, it means that one hasn't really seen through and comprehended one's experience. If you understand something very, very thoroughly and fully, it stops completely, and you may never see it again. But for most people, it can take years. I've seen monks with 35 years of practice, and they could still be working on certain kinds of kind of like moods or reactions, because the kind of karmic experience, it goes very, very deep, and maybe some people it could take even a full lifetime or two to sort of shift this material. But in reality, we're not actually put on this earth to just constantly process our karma for endless lifetimes. The aim of what we're doing is basically to put a finish to this business, because karma and rebirth is just endless, as the Buddha said, and every single one of us you really don't have any choice. You have to do the work, because if you don't, the whole principle of rebirth and karmic experience, the cause and effect principle, it will never come to an end. It's a law in itself, and that law is never ending. So if one doesn't apply oneself and develop oneself, that you can still be doing this stuff in another 1,000 lifetimes, and that's not what the Buddha recommended. He recommended to completely end this process. This is the highest development of a human being. So as we say, for example, going way back into human history, with say small nomadic groups, tribes, and then agricultural society, communities, and then modern human society that we see now, that this process of evolution has gone on for say millions of years. I couldn't tell you exactly, from the very first say ape which descended from the trees and started to walk on hind legs across the African savanna because the forests were thinning out. So going back millions of years, and so we reach this point now where we have intelligence, and we have an ability to be self-aware. So moving through the evolutionary process, we can actually become, as we follow this this cause of say natural development, natural selection, a process of say biological conditioning to a degree on the physical level, but we've reached this point with the mind of human beings where we have the potential to become aware and understand the nature of mind itself. So if you went back in history to very, very primitive, say like early Stone Age society, these people didn't have a capability to develop the science of the mind and to come to any kind of very deep realization. Their main concerns was survival, getting enough food, protection from the elements, and maintaining the safety and security of the tribe that they lived in, the security of the group. So with the one of the sticking points is with this spiritual path that we're developing is we have to reach that point where when I gave that talk on the 5 hindrances, even the meditation masters in Thailand make it crystal clear that you've got to have, say, at least Uppicchato Samadhi or the suppression of the 5 hindrances, those 5 areas which are basically responsible for, say, delusion inside the mind, for excessive thinking and strong feelings, passionate anger, all these different moods and feelings that we go through. And so with the 5 hindrances, you reach a state of very, say, deep tranquility, deep stillness of mind, and then you've got an ability to really, when you withdraw from that level of samadhi, to really go very deep on the level of, say, insight and investigation. And before that point, you can certainly make progress, and you can certainly develop yourself to quite a significant degree. But that suppression of 5 hindrances is a sticking point that people have to cross, because if you are unable to do that your potential for enlightenment is in reality is largely blocked. The Buddha made it very, very clear. The meditation masters from Thailand made it very, very clear. You've got to have a minimum. The mind's got to be still. There's got to be that level of samadhi. There's got to be no thinking at all. You have to basically do away. You have to abandon all your views, opinions, preferences, your personality temporarily, to really get a fresh, clear, a very very precise and accurate way of looking at your experience. Because if you keep looking through your personality, you're going to keep seeing a lot of the same old stuff just repeatedly over and over and over again. I've got stuff in the monk's life which has been with me for 24 years, and it doesn't look like it's going to disappear just yet. So even 30, 40 years, people have stuff which that they are going to work with. But that once you reach that Uppicchato Samadhi, then you've got a potential to really break through and develop the kind of insight which will basically rip out or uproot the defilements which are the basis for ignorance in the mind. Because as long as the defilements have power and hold sway over the way you perceive through the five senses, you're going to be essentially blocked. But once you are able to attain that level of tranquility and get some incredibly clear, sharp perspective on your experience and the world around you, then you have a real potential. Because, with the just repeating myself, that in order to attain the first level of awakening, you have to have Uppicchato Samadhi. Anyone who's ever got enlightened will just tell you straight to your face, you've got to have Uppicchato Samadhi, because they're talking from personal experience. They know the way the mind works. They know the tricks the connivings and the deception and the, all this stuff that the defilements, the way they work and the way they affect a human being. And and when you're able to, and so for example, requiring the Uppicchato for the first level of awakening, but in order to go right through and finish, you only need the first jhana meditation, and considering that insight is at full power in the fourth jhana, and you only need the first jhana samadhi to actually go right through and finish the path completely, is actually quite encouraging. So you don't need to be absolute, like a samadhi super person, to really make progress in a very, very short period of time. Did anyone have any quick questions before we roll on to the metta meditation? All you guys are still awake, so I know I'm doing okay. Yep.
Quite often comparing people to animals, we often say, oh, animals have this tremendous power and ability to stay in the present, and I'm sure they are not afflicted by excessive thinking. So how is it that we as humans have achieved the level of brain and mind that allowed us to reach this civilization that we live in, and that is the result of thinking and development of technology and everything. And now, as Buddhists, we are trying to kind of get rid of it, get rid of thinking, to get back to stillness, being present in order to achieve nirvana. Can you comment on this?
So when you look at so for example, the state of an animal. I mean, animals naturally they think, they remember, because the thing is, if you can't, even the most even like ants and small insects have memory. They have. I've got to be careful here. They have patterns of behaviour, but I can't. I mean, I couldn't say exactly if they actually have a working memory. It's something you probably have to check on the internet. But for example, I've got ant colonies around my kuti, and these guys, these little creatures, they remember. They remember where things are. They know where obstructions are. They know where a potential food supply is. They probably communicate chemically between each other, and they pass messages. But there's got to be some kind of rudimentary recognition and then remembrance of that experience. Because I've seen an ant like even say move across the ground for 30 or even say 30 or 40 feet to find a specific location in the forest. So there must have been some past memory there. Because the thing is, even with insects, all living beings, no matter how small they are, have a mind component. They have a physical body, the four elements, mental elements which make up the mind, and there's absolutely no doubt that larger creatures, like bunny rabbits and cats and kittens, they all have a working memory that all of us can observe very clearly. And human beings who have more sophisticated cerebral capability, which also gets us into difficulties. Well, when you see, I mean, both for good. Human beings can generate a lot of good. Welfare can generate kindness and compassion in the world, but they can also generate a lot of misfortune and danger and aggression and bits and pieces. So, human beings capable of both good and bad and neutral as well. But the thinking in itself is like a tool. How are you going to basically use this tool for whatever purpose you're aiming at? But when you look at the state of the world, you look at the way human beings think and remember and you look at the nature of human society, and you look at the way human beings behave in the world. The vast majority of people on the planet are decent human beings. I've got no doubt about that. And it's only a small, percentage who have got basically they've got either bad karma or they're really incredibly deluded, or whatnot. So, but the thinking process has a workable limit. There's certainly amazing, incredible things that you can do in the world, but we still haven't, mainly through lack of wisdom, we still haven't resolved. To give you an idea, on the planet we've got enough, maybe not in all areas, we've got enough food and fresh water and land mass and probably fossil fuels to a degree. I'm not on the internet, so I don't know these things in fine detail, but there's enough resources on this planet to go around and basically to support and protect the vast majority of the human population. But you're looking at mismanagement of resources, like greed, possessiveness. A small group of people with the biggest slice of the pie, and they don't want to share with the rest of human society. So the thinking process, when we look at wisdom and we look at thinking, in order to develop wisdom, you've got to meditate, and you have to think things through. Every single one of us, we have to reflect and investigate in order to understand what we're going through, what's happening, our connections with other people, this and that. But through the process of meditation, sort of, the samadhi, the calm, getting the mind reasonably calm, peaceful, and then when you investigate at that point, then you've got the potential to develop wisdom. People can still make progress without meditation, but there's a workable limit. Thinking can only without the meditation support, thinking can only go so deep into your experience and make changes. If I didn't meditate, I could think. I can just think all the time for the next 30, 40 years, but you may not see incredible changes in my character. But I won't underestimate that you will definitely make a degree of progress, depending on the way that you investigate, the mode of investigating. There's all sorts of ways you can think and reflect on things that professional academics and people who specialize in this area. So that just that same thing again. Thinking has a workable limit. You look at the state of the world, and that's how far thinking has taken us. When you look at the development, the capability, what we've created, all this kind of thing. So certainly useful up to a point, but if you're talking about real wisdom, real understanding, kindness, compassion, and a major resolution of the problems that we see on a global level, the wisdom faculty, it has to be developed with the meditation support. If I hope that answered your question.
Well, in fact, the question was a bit silly, I must admit, but it allowed me to hear what you, I believe, have been repeating throughout this retreat, that samadhi and investigation, as in wisdom, have to work together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, see, like in the balance. Do you want to make a start on the? Do you guys want to do the loving kindness, or you can actually choose? You can choose if you want to do the loving kindness or the compassion meditation, depending on your personal makeup. If you feel you need lots of kindness, you can do metta for oneself and for other people. If you feel that you need compassion, you can do that instead. So, or maybe we can do half and half, so you can just get a feel for each area, and then you decide if you want to do it for a full 30 minutes or not. So what we do is with the loving kindness and compassion, that you always start with yourself. You are the center of your universe, your personal experience, and so you always start with oneself. And if you feel like you need to, you can radiate outwards, but it's really not necessary at all to develop metta for other people, unless you're like an extreme situation, like you're like a homicidal, say, psychopath. Someone with incredibly extreme potential for extreme, maybe aggression, violence, this and that, where they need full power. They radiate to like all beings from the safety of their prison cell. So you can use the word. I'll give you a stock formula, and you can use any words that you like. So look at your personality and look at your personal makeup, and then choose the words which are actually important to support your character. And so like a stock formula may I, it always starts with may I be happy, successful, and confident. That would just be a stock formula that I've used on a regular basis. Or it could be something like could be something like may I be, could be happy, peaceful, and wise. So you choose the words carefully, which are specific for your personality, and we'll do it in increments. Let's have a look. 15. All right. So we'll do. Let's see. 5. We'll go from. Yeah. I'll talk you through it, but we'll do, say, roughly about 5, maybe 5 minutes, 6. Actually, what I'll do. All right. I'll do 5 minutes on each. I'll do the loving kindness, compassion, but we'll do 5 minutes in 3 sections. So I'll talk you through it. So just start with oneself, whatever, and just do it very relaxed. Just continually relax, like a continuous mantra, and don't give yourself a headache. Just nice and slow, very relaxed. You can do it any way that you choose. And so may I be such and such, and choose the words which are important to you. want you to radiate metta for the best friend that you have. Radiate a positive feeling towards them, using whatever words are important to you. like you to radiate metta for your family members, all together as a group. Yeah, I want you to get a feel for the compassion meditation. So look inside one's character, whatever you want to be, any level of discomfort or emotional difficulty or pain. Compassion always starts with, may I be free from. May I be free from worry, could be anxiety, concern, or may I be free from, could be like doubt. May I be free from doubt and perplexity about the Buddha's teaching, maybe. So you choose the words which are suitable. May I be free from such and such an afflictive state. want you to choose a person who might be in unfortunate circumstances, a person that you know, and radiate compassion for that person using the words which are suitable. you to think of a group of people in unfortunate circumstances. It could be anything whatsoever. It could be disabled people or crippled people or poor people, and radiate compassion for those people as a group. Guys, it's been a great crowd. Thank you for coming. Enjoyed your company. I've got to do some stuff around the office. If people need to chat, I can spend a little bit of time with you if you need to catch up.